Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're getting into some really powerful material you shared. It's a transcript from a YouTube podcast, a Greek one called Podcasts Ishlagais.
Mm-hmm. And our goal here is to really, explore the key insights from this.
Yeah.
It's one woman's story, Georgia's story, shared very openly.
Yeah, focusing on her experiences with therapy, family, self-discovery, all that really deep stuff.
Exactly. And the source itself is important. It's a personal narrative, very candid, from a podcast specifically about psychotherapy stories. So it's quite intimate.
Right, so George is the central figure, and her story touches on, well, quite a range. Initial reasons for therapy, some really challenging early therapist encounters.
Definitely. And also complex family dynamics, loss,
Yeah.
estrangement, navigating her own identity through all of it, and finding resilience somehow.
Okay, let's start unpacking this. Where did her therapy journey begin?
Well, like a lot of people, it started after a breakup. That was
Yeah.
the initial trigger.
Okay, a common starting point.
Yeah. But she pretty quickly realized there were deeper issues underneath the surface. It wasn't just the relationship ending.
And those first steps into therapy weren't exactly smooth, were they?
No, not at all. Her very first experience with a therapist someone had recommended, it involves some, well, frankly, shocking prejudice.
Shocking how? What happened?
Well, this therapist, a woman, apparently told Georgia that she was, and this is a direct quote essentially, too attractive to be gay.
Wait, what? Too attractive?
Yeah, based purely on her appearance. The therapist apparently suggested she should reconsider her identity and even offered up her own son as a potential partner for Georgia.
Her son.
Mhm.
You're kidding?
Nope, it's pretty staggering, isn't it? Shows how deep stereotypes can run even where you least expect them.
I can't even imagine. How did Jordy react?
She said she just froze, completely stunned, and deeply disappointed, obviously. Just totally unprofessional and frankly baseless.
Absolutely. That vulnerability you have in therapy, to be met with that, wow.
And unfortunately, it wasn't just a one-off bad experience.
Oh no, there was more.
Yeah, she saw a second therapist later who also showed this kind of unprofessional curiosity about her personal life, her partner at the time,
Okay.
and repeated a similar sentiment that her appearance didn't fit with her being gay.
Unbelievable. It's like the same script.
Pretty much.
Yep.
And Georgia mentioned this was roughly 14 or 15 years ago. She would have been in her late 20s, maybe early 30s.
Right. So for anyone listening, this really drives home how vital it is to find a therapist who is genuinely supportive, non-judgmental. Those are major red flags, aren't they?
Huge red flags. It speaks volumes about finding a safe space. If you don't feel safe, if you feel judged based on, well, ridiculous stereotypes, how can you possibly do the work?
Exactly. It likely damaged her trust in the whole process for a while, I imagine.
You'd have to assume so. That initial trust, feeling understood,
Yeah.
it's the absolute foundation. Without it, well, you're not really starting, are you?
Okay, so moving away from those difficult beginnings in therapy, let's talk about her family history. You mentioned loss.
Yes, and it's profound. Georgia is actually the last surviving member of her immediate family. There were originally 6 of them,
6. Wow, so she lost.
both parents, and also a brother. He died very young, only 8 years old, in a car accident.
Oh, that's heartbreaking.
And get this, the accident happened just 50 meters from their home. Incredibly close.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah.
And wasn't there something about her name?
Yes, exactly. Georgia was born 4 years after her brother died, and following a Greek custom, she was named George after him, Georgia being the female equivalent.
Named after the brother who died. That carries a lot of weight, doesn't it?
It really does. It suggests her birth was, in a way, tied into the family's grief. Like she was maybe meant to fill a void or fulfill some kind of role related to that loss, even unconsciously.
That creates such a complex dynamic for childhood, I imagine.
Absolutely. She described it as paradoxical. On one hand, she got like tons of love and attention from aunts, uncles, the wider family, almost excessive, she felt. But from her actual parents, there was a real lack of physical affection, hugs, that kind of thing, and also not much verbal praise or affirmation.
So lots of attention, but maybe not the kind of connection she needed.
It seems like it. Maybe her parents, dealing with their own immense grief after losing their son, showed care in a different way, like focusing on protecting her, providing for her. Maybe that was their love language, shaped by trauma.
That makes sense in a sad way. Did she know about her brother growing up?
She said she was aware of him from about age 5, but at 5, you don't really grasp the full meaning of death and that kind of loss. He was like a presence, but maybe not fully understood.
Yeah, of course. And there were some really intense moments later on connected to her parents.
Definitely. She mentioned her mother when she was dying from cancer. On her deathbed, she thanked Georgia for bringing her back to life.
Wow, bringing her back to life. That's incredibly heavy.
So heavy. Imagine hearing that, especially given the context of being born after the brother's death. It ties into that idea of having a specific, almost predetermined role.
Yeah. And her father's passing was also unusual.
Unexpected, yeah. He passed away after a fall at home. But what's really striking, almost eerie, is that Georgia said she had a premonition about the day he would die.
A premonition?
Yeah. And the date she foresaw, it turned out to be her deceased brother's birthday.
No way. His birthday.
His birthday. It's this recurring theme, isn't it? Death, life, significant dates, all intertwined in her family story. It's like that first loss echoed through everything.
It really seems that way. Okay, so beyond her parents,
Yeah.
what about her siblings? You mentioned there were others.
Yes, she had or has. Well, she had siblings. There was a significant age gap, she mentioned.
Right.
Initially, her older sister was almost like a mother figure to her, and her relationship with her brother was, more like typical sibling stuff, maybe some conflict, but generally okay.
Okay, so a fairly normal dynamic to start.
Seemed like it. But the big turning point, the thing that really shifted those relationships, was when Georgia came out as gay. This was when she was in her early 30s.
Ah. How did they react?
Her brother was apparently more accepting, or at least seemed to be, but her sister, she just kind of avoided the topic, didn't want to talk about it.
Avoidance. That can be its own kind of rejection, can't it?
Definitely. And over time, it wasn't just avoidance. Georgia started experiencing more direct rejection, criticism
Hmm.
about her life choices generally.
Not just about her being gay.
No, it extended to her education, her career successes, things she'd achieved. She felt like they were actively trying to diminish her accomplishments.
That's incredibly hurtful. Like they couldn't celebrate her life if they didn't fit their expectations.
Exactly. And it got even darker. Georgia felt that her siblings actually blamed her somehow for their parents' deaths.
Blamed her. How?
She mentioned accusations were made. It's hard to know the specifics, but it points to some really deep, maybe twisted family dynamics, perhaps projecting their own grief or anger onto her.
That's terrible.
Yeah.
And this all culminated in a final break.
A really brutal one. It happened the day after their mother's funeral.
The day after.
The day after, her siblings basically told her they were cutting her out of their lives completely and disinheriting her.
And the reason they gave.
They explicitly cited her personal life choices, meaning her being gay and living her life openly.
Oh my God. So she's grieving her mother, and then her remaining family just cuts her off like that.
Exactly, compounding grief upon grief, losing her mother, and then effectively losing her entire remaining family in the space of 24 hours. It's almost unimaginable.
It really reinforces that idea you mentioned earlier about her having a specific role.
Yeah, it fits, doesn't it? Like maybe they saw her as the savior child born after the tragedy, the one who cared for their mother during her illness.
Right.
And once the mother passed away, maybe in their eyes, her job was done. Her role was complete. And because she wasn't living the life they envisioned, she was disposable.
That concept of assigned family roles,
Yeah,
it can be so damaging. We often don't even realize we're playing them out, you know?
absolutely. These unspoken scripts, handed down through generations, it takes enormous courage to break free from them.
So despite all this family difficulty, Georgia was living her life. She had a long-term partner. They lived together. Did her parents ever acknowledge it?
She said they never really discussed it openly. It was just known but not spoken about, which is its own kind of dynamic, isn't it? Acceptance through silence, perhaps.
Yeah. And then on top of everything else, she faced a major health scare.
She did, a serious issue that required surgery, something called an excision. And she talked about processing this, understandably, as another loss.
Another loss. Given everything she'd been through, losing parts of her physical self, too.
Exactly. And during this incredibly tough time, her sister actually reached out briefly.
Oh. Was that maybe a chance for reconciliation?
Well, Georgia didn't really see it that way. Her feeling was that her sister reached out more to ease her own guilt, because after that brief contact, she disappeared again. No real sustained support or interest.
So it felt performative, maybe.
That seems to be Georgia's interpretation. She even voiced a really chilling thought that maybe her sister just wanted to see if she'd survived the health crisis.
Wow. That speaks volumes about how broken that relationship was.
Totally. And the health issue itself was serious. It was precancerous, and apparently there weren't other treatment options besides the surgery, so the stakes were high.
It's just one thing after another for her. But there was a positive turning point with therapy around this time.
Yes, thankfully. Just a week before her mother passed away, Georgia found a therapist she really connected with, someone supportive.
Okay, that timing feels crucial.
Absolutely, like a lifeline appearing just when things were incredibly dark. And she mentioned she'd fully re-engaged with therapy about a month before this podcast recording was made.
Good for her. And what's her focus now, after everything?
It seems to be about building her life authentically, prioritizing her career, yes, but also her personal life on her own terms.
Owning her identity more fully.
Exactly. She talked about starting to come out to people who might not have known or expected it, realizing that their acceptance, or lack thereof, is their issue, not hers.
That's a powerful shift in perspective.
It really is. She even used this phrase, a hardcore come out.
Hardcore come out. What did she mean by that?
I think she meant it went beyond just her sexual identity. It was about embracing her entire true self after spending so much of her life, as she saw it, fulfilling roles others had assigned to her.
Coming out as herself. Fully.
Precisely. And she also mentioned, almost in passing, how humor has been a key coping mechanism for her through all these incredibly difficult times.
Sometimes you have to laugh, right? Even when things are dark.
It can be a vital survival tool. Now, there's one more piece of her story that's just remarkable. It involves her best friend.
Okay.
They'd been friends for 20 years. And during a moment when Georgia was really struggling, having a panic attack, an emotional outburst, her friend revealed something incredible.
What did he reveal?
He told her that he also lost a brother, tragically.
Okay.
A brother with the exact same first name as Georgia's deceased brother, who also died in a car accident, also at the age of 8.
You're kidding me. Same name, same cause of death, same age.
Exactly. And not only that, this friend is also the third child in his family, with a significant age gap between him and his older siblings, just like Georgia.
That's uncanny. The parallels are astonishing.
Absolutely astonishing. Georgia described her reaction as just shock, followed by this profound sense of connection. How could you not feel that?
Wow. It's like finding someone who speaks a language only you thought you knew.
Perfectly put, that shared, specific, deep trauma. It creates a unique kind of bond, doesn't it? An unexpected bridge.
So this friend became really important support.
Hugely important. She described him as being like both a brother and a sister to her. Consistent, unwavering support, especially when her mother was ill.
It really highlights the power of chosen family, doesn't it?
Absolutely. When biological family causes pain or disappears, the people we choose, the friends who show up, they become everything.
And it sounds like Georgia's also learning to accept that support.
Yes, she acknowledged her own tendency to be the strong one, the protector, and that learning to let herself be supported, to be vulnerable, that's part of her journey too. It's hard, but so necessary for healing.
So as we kind of wrap up this deep dive, the overwhelming takeaway is just Georgia's immense journey, right? Self-discovery through layers of loss, incredibly difficult family stuff, societal pressures.
Yeah, it's a story of resilience, really, and those specific details just stick with you. The therapist's prejudice, the cycle of dates in her family, that painful estrangement, and then that unbelievable connection with her friend.
It's truly memorable. And ultimately, her strength shines through that decision to finally say, this is me, and prioritize her authentic self.
It's powerful. And it leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it, for everyone listening?
What's that?
Well, just consider the roles we sometimes play, maybe without even realizing it, within our own families or communities. Roles assigned to us or ones we take on.
Right. The good daughter, the responsible one, the peacemaker.
Exactly. And think about the courage it takes to step outside those roles, to define ourselves authentically, especially when it means facing opposition or confronting loss.
It takes incredible strength.
It really does.
Yeah.
So the question for the listener might be, what come out in that broader sense of revealing your true self might you need to make in your own life?